Hello, freaks, geeks, nerds, and basement dwellers. Welcome to the Nerd Zone. I'm Scruffy, and this is Scruffy Tales. And I wanted to make a video focusing a bit on the forgotten villains of Star Trek. Well, forgotten, reimagined, I guess. Ferengi privateers, the fighting arm of the Ferengi Alliance. Let's take a look. Now, I am a huge fan of the Ferengi, especially the Ferengi we see in Deep Space Nine. I think Deep Space Nine made fantastic choices depicting the Ferengi, exploring their society, and all the Ferengi episodes are some of the best Star Trek comedy episodes out there. I mean, they're just awesome, and the Ferengi are just so despicable. But it's done, correctly, if you ask me. But we have to remember that in The Next Generation, in Enterprise, and in Deep Space Nine, we do get to see the Ferengi a bit as they were intended, to be a menace, to be a credible threat to Starfleet and Federation vessels in space. Because of course that is what they intend originally. The original idea was for them to be the next big threat in the galaxy. So you had the Klingons in the original series, and then you wanted the Ferengi to be the next big threat for the Next Generation. Didn't really pan out that way when they were first introduced, and later on we got the Borg instead. But the basic idea was that these despicable, ultra-capitalist, privateering aliens would be a big threat to the crew of the Enterprise in the Next Generation. And we do get to see that in certain episodes, that they are a marauding, privateering species. So I think this is something that should be explored and expanded upon, to be perfectly honest. Now, throughout Star Trek, we learn that the Ferengi have never fought massive wars. They are not a warlike species. And we also learn that there are certain loose rules and laws within Ferengi society that inhibits them from committing piracy and what have you, and taking prisoners and stuff like that. But I find it hard to believe that with all the hostile empires in the Star Trek universe, the Cardassians, the Breen, the Klingons, the Romulans, and everyone, that the Ferengi would not at some point have to defend themselves militarily. And I think this is where the privateer captains come into play. And they're not regular daimons, they're more rogue captains, which I have decided to name Daemon Ka. So not traditional daemons, but they operate outside of the law, and they're known as Daemon Ka. And they are the unofficial fighting arm of the Ferengi Alliance. Now, so they are privateers, pirates, marauders, but they can also be hired by Ferengi business owners, by the wealthy elite, by the Nagus, to conduct operations on behalf of the Ferengi Alliance. So it's not the official Ferengi navy or military that are engaging in proxy wars or what have you. It's just, privateers. Who knows who hired them? If they might be doing it on their own to raid hostile ports, colonies, and shipping lanes. You never know. So, there's this gray zone that you can fight these privateers, but you can't really accuse the Ferengi Alliance of being involved. And I think Ferengi privateers fit that niche quite perfectly. And I think that would make the Ferengi Alliance a credible threat, as it was originally intended to be, if you make use of these types of captains and ships. And of course, as we can see in these images, the codpiece, the Ferengi should have the codpieces. They must make a return. Uh, I refuse to have it any other way. Gene Roddenberry originally wanted them to have massive cod pieces, and that's a that story demands a video on its own. But I think that would be that should be incorporated into the Ferengi aesthetics. Absolutely, that their outfits, they need the cod piece, definitely. And like all species have nuanced personalities, there really should be Ferengi who are willing to, walk over corpses in order to acquire profit. And these are the Ferengi that get hired by privateer captains. These are the Ferengi that serve on the privateer captain ships. Cutthroats. They are prepared to do whatever it takes to earn profit. Might not be the most brave of warriors, but certainly cunning, sly, and backstabbing. They will resort to devious tactics, ambushes, um, relying on grenades, knockout gas, transporters, force fields, whatever, to trap prisoners and extract goods and supplies from enemy ships and what have you. And like, if someone happens to die along the way, I don't think these Ferengi care all that much, as long as they earn a profit in the end. There's probably not that many Ferengi of this type within the Ferengi Alliance, but they must exist. There are different types of personalities all over, and there will be enough Ferengi to staff the privateer ships. Of that, I am completely certain. And I think it would be a nice touch to see these Ferengi. Probably armed with good equipment and armor, since Ferengi do like profit and they do like to stay safe. So they will probably buy the best equipment they can get their hands on, or steal for that matter. And I think Ferengi ships should vary somewhat. We do get the classic Ferengi Marauder showing up in the various episodes, but I think there should be some nuance. There's not that much nuance here. I've just swapped out, or added, I should say, warp nacelles, because I think Star Trek ships should have warp nacelles. There's in-universe explanation why ships have these nacelles, so I think they should be added to all larger capital ships. And so I figured there should be a full host of different designs and what have you to these Ferengi ships. So there's not just one specific design like we're seeing the Romulans or Starfleet using, since the Ferengi Alliance should be a bit more diversified in ship design, if you ask me. And I also think we really need to explore the Ferengi whip. I think you can do a lot of cool stuff with it. They did try and expand upon it a bit in Enterprise, but I think there's room for more. It should be a stun weapon that can be used to stun people, that you should be able to shoot with, like we see in the Next Generation. And I think it would be cool if you could, flick a switch and it would stiffen up to almost become like a rapier, so that Ferengi captains can use it like a rapier, maybe even have duels between captains. Might not fit the Ferengi we typically see in Deep Space Nine, but if you explore Ferengi society and make it a bit more realistic or gritty, as Star Trek seems to be going down in the most recent shows, a more grittier Star Trek, then why not have Ferengi captains armed with these whips that can stiffen and then be used like rapiers in a duel? I think that would be cool. That would be really cool to see two Ferengi captains fighting with these whips like rapiers. And these privateers, well, they would, of course, be out to collect cargo from their victims and then sell it where they can make the most money. Salvage rights on the ships themselves, so they take over vessels and then they can, sell the ships in their entirety, or maybe sell them as scrap metal and stuff like that. Weapons, definitely, if either they might salvage the weapons to use them themselves or sell them to other people. Dilithium crystals must be a high value commodity, so those would be either used in their own ships or sold expensively on the market. Vital systems, computers, life support, stuff like that would be easy to sell as well for hard-earned latinum. And then the crew itself that they have taken. Now, the Ferengi, they do not resort to slavery. They do not take slaves, but they would surely hold captive crew for ransom, right? So they can sell basically prisoners for a lot of latinum, or trading them for some other goods that they might want to sell later on. So I think there is a market, as it were, for the privateers expanding into the galaxy, grabbing cargo, selling the ships they've taken over, grabbing weapons and dilithium, and holding crew for ransom. And here we can see the Ferengi Alliance. They're up here between the Breen and the Cardassians, and right next to the United Federation of Planets, where you also have Starfleet, and down here you have Bajor. So this is where the Ferengi are based, and from here is where they spread out into the galaxy to do trade, primarily make deals, make a profit, but also they spread out with their privateers and have become known as these marauding aliens that are a potential threat to anyone they come across, because you never know, is it a Ferengi trader or a Ferengi privateer? And I think where the Ferengi are most active would be here in neutral space around their territory. I don't think they're gonna be messing with the Breen all too much, but the neutral regions around the Ferengi Alliance is where the privateers will be operating, and also definitely within the Federation. The Federation are not as hostile to pirates and other species, so this is where you have easy pickings, hunting down the merchants and trade ships within the Federation, and they might even at later stages move in and do the same within Bajoran space, maybe even to an extent within the Cardassian Union, but that's a bit more tricky since the Cardassians can turn hostile really, really quickly. But I do find it really interesting that we have the Cardassian Union here, Bajor, and here we have the demilitarized zone between the Cardassian Union and the Federation. And if we zoom in, we can see you basically have the same structure here between the Ferengi Alliance and the Cardassian Union. So that got me thinking, why is there what appears to be a DMZ between the Ferengi and the Cardassians? So in my headcanon, I figured there probably was a Cardassian-Ferengi war at some point, although, as we know, the Ferengi have never fought a war because, they don't. Instead, they fight proxy wars, a resource feud between the Cardassians and the Ferengi. So in my headcanon, the Cardassians are pushing northward, galactic north, towards the Ferengi Alliance. And the Ferengi, they're realizing that this is not good. This is, conquest in the making. So the Ferengi are doing their best, putting in all their efforts to negotiate a peace so that there's trade and commerce between the Cardassians and the Ferengi. But it is clear that the Cardassians, they are preparing for war. They're only stalling, and eventually they will attack and invade. So the Nagus has no other choice. He has to start a proxy war with the Cardassian Union, and he gathers the privateer captains, the privateer fleets, and hires them all. It's going to cost him a lot of latinum, but it's a good investment since it will safeguard the Ferengi alliance. And he unleashes the privateer fleets upon the Cardassians. And this is, of course, a mix of pirates from various races and regions of space combined with Ferengi privateer ships. But they do not outright attack the Cardassians like a military force. Instead, they operate like pirates, like marauders, but they target cargo and trade and colonies within the Cardassian Union that are not related to what can be found within the Ferengi alliance. Now this forces the Cardassians to compensate for these losses, and they must now find these resources elsewhere, and that takes them away from the Ferengi alliance. So the Ferengi have targeted these goods specifically to convince the Cardassians to go look for it elsewhere, meaning they won't focus on the Ferengi, they will instead focus on another region of space. And that region of space is towards the galactic east, and this is what moves the Cardassian Union eventually to Bajor and a war with the Federation down the line as they're pushing eastward. All thanks to this proxy war with the Ferengi alliance, this resource feud. And so with the Cardassian military now pushing eastward, galactic east, the Ferengi are now in a position to negotiate trade and commerce with Cardassians, because the Ferengi, remember, they have a lot of resources that the Cardassians initially wanted, and now the Ferengi can sell them at a higher cost to the Cardassians, since the Cardassians are now expanding expensively so eastward. So now the Ferengi are in a position to offer trade and also a very profitable trade for the Ferengi alliance, since the Cardassians are even more in need of the Ferengi goods at this point in time. And this essentially ends the resource feud between the Cardassians and the Ferengi, when the Cardassians are now expanding east, and the Ferengi can now call back the privateer fleets and the pirates. Now, the Cardassians obviously realize what happened, what took place. They understand that this sudden surge of piracy was because the Ferengi unleashed their privateers and their pirates upon the Cardassians. So the Cardassians realize, we don't want to experience that again. And the end result is that demilitarized zone between the Cardassians and the Ferengi, and the Cardassians instead focus on expanding elsewhere to avoid being harassed by these privateers and pirates that the Ferengi are in control of. So that is what ends the Cardassian-Ferengi resource feud, and that is also why, in my headcanon, we eventually see the Cardassians pushing towards the galactic east, finding Bajor, and ending up in a war eventually with the Federation. And I think there's room for more sinister Ferengi in this new gritty Trek that we're seeing, and not just the even though I love the Ferengi in Deep Space Nine, but with the new Trek we're seeing that is more dark and gritty. I mean, imagine the Ferengi being vicious privateers, entrepreneurs. Capitalism is everything that matters, earning a profit and stuff like that. you can truly develop them into these really horrible goblin-like creatures that could actually become this real, credible threat that they were originally intended to be. So I think we shouldn't discard the Ferengi, not yet. I think there's hope for them in this new, darker, grittier Trek that we're seeing.
Born in a backroom bunk, counting slips in the dark. Got my first bar of shine, stole my way to a star. Every treaty, every drink, got a margin built in. If it doesn't end in profit, then it's not how I win. Platinum makes the stars glow, shining in the void out there. Pilot high and watch the whole realm bow to the one who dares. Profit is the heart and soul, pumping through the lanes we roam. Platinum makes the stars glow, and that glow says, bring it home. Yeah. Cousin swears he found love. I say love don't accrue. Show me numbers, show me charts, then I might believe you. Every culture, every creed talks of honor, pride, and war. I just see untapped demand and an open door. Platinum makes the stars glow, shining in the void out there. Pilot high and watch the whole realm bow to the one who dares. Profit is the heart and soul, conquer through the lanes we roam. Platinum makes the stars glow, and glow says, bring it home. From the slums of the docks to the halls of command, they all smile for ideals. I just watch their hands, 'cause faith can fade and flags can burn slow, but a single strip of platinum still makes the cosmos go.